Today, I wanted to talk about breaking the scarcity cycle. Excuse me, breaking the scarcity cycle. How to go back to abundance, thinking and expecting abundance versus just living in scarcity and lack mode. When we operate from a scarcity mindset, we're constantly worried about not having enough. It works at first, to be frugal. It's early, however you see it, cutting back to adjustment expenses or living with the financial blueprint. Nothing is wrong with that. I'm talking about where we're cutting back, I mean, beyond where it's even costing us a type of quality of life that we might want to have due to the fact that we're operating out of this scarcity mindset versus an abundant mindset of possibility of what can happen, of what we are entitled to. And I don't mean that in an entitled way. I'm just saying that how we think influences our next move. So back to what I was saying. When we operate from a scarcity mindset, which is being constantly worried about not having enough, our brains literally reshape themselves to support this worldview because it's just running rampant right now. And it's been that way for a while. When I got sick and lost my job, I really fell into that. If I just cut back here, cut back there, and it really turned out to be like an Ouroboros, like a trap for me. Like I trapped myself within this scarcity mode, lack mentality mode, thinking that I'm doing what I can to get through the particular situation I'm in, and I'll come out the other side and continue where I left off. Well, that never happened. And what I realize now, like I say, is I was programming my mind for a sense of lack, and that's fear. Everything that is, uh, I'm going to say it's not love or abundance, the same thing, is a fear response. And sometimes, which is also survival, all that's fear. And I got trapped into it. I didn't see it like I say at the time because I think I'm being frugal to shop at all these different stores because the prices on food are lower, and not realizing that I'm slowly and systematically cutting myself out of a mindset that we all are entitled to have. We all naturally have it. It's our given right, our birthright is what I should say. When I use the word entitlement, I'm talking about things that you should just know. And we should always know that we are worthy. So back to what I was saying, operating up from this scarcity mindset, it's like there's a repeated firing of fear-based neural pathways being created by what neuroscientists call neural superhighways. Okay, these become our brain's default route, making scarcity thinking feel natural and automatic. But as I say, it keeps on compounding. I'm not aware of it at the time that's what's happening to me, but it's steady compounding. It's this is before I knew about neuroscience, before I really always known about neuroscience, but before I really understood how this really involves neuroplasticity and what I'm more or less molding my like silly putty, my brain to adhere to, which is keeping it from its higher thoughts. You never want to do that. So here's what happens when neurologically you're dumbing yourself down to live in scarcity. Chronic scarcity thoughts trigger the amygdala, which is the fear center in the brain, which floods your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. This is why when you think you're doing better, you're feeling worse. At least that's how it was for me. This biochemical cocktail hijacks your prefrontal cortex. That's the brain's region responsible for creative thinking, problem solving, and seeing opportunities. You literally cannot think your way out of a paper bag when it's all said and done. But you really can't think your way out of a problem when you're stuck in this cycle. Meanwhile, the hippocampus, which is a memory center, becomes hypervigilant. So now you're in survival mode. Okay, you might not be aware of that, but that's what it is. How many rational decisions have you made in survival mode? That's like fear. Once again, like I say, fear is the basis of everything that is not abundance. You call it what you will, but that's what it is. So staying in this hyper vigilant mode means you're scanning for threats and evidence of limitation. Your brain starts filtering reality through a scarcity lens, noticing every price increase, every bill, every financial worry, while simultaneously becoming blind to opportunities, resources, and possibilities. Lord, if I could have seen that when it was actually going on. But like I said, I'm up in the midst of it and it's happening, but I'm not processing it the way I'm able to process it, which is to look at it and observe it now. I'm really thankful for that I can see it differently. It does is I saw it as a part of my identity, something that was being done to me. I no longer see it like that. Fear-based frugality leads to it actually well creates several neurological traps. For one, analysis paralysis. That's when every purchase becomes like a source of stress. Your brain burns excessively, actually glucose, trying to make perfect decisions. This is mentally exhausting and it reduces your capacity for strategic thinking and creative problem solving. Your hypervigilant brain becomes so focused on avoiding financial threats that it fails to recognize investments, opportunities, or experiences that could actually improve your situation. Chronically elevated cortisol impairs judgment and impulse control, leading to the very financial mistakes you're trying to avoid. And this fear-based frugality often leads to decline in social invitations, uh, reducing like the people who are around you and limiting opportunities for growth or collaboration. Now, the good news is you can rewrite you can rewire your brain for abundance by redirecting these thoughts. How do you do that? Every time you catch yourself thinking a scarcity thought, physically interrupt that pattern. Say stop out loud. Take 3 deep breaths and then deliberately replace it with an abundance focused question. Specific replacements. I can't afford this. How could I afford this if I wanted to? That's a replacement. Money is tight. Replacement thought would be what resources do I have that I'm not fully utilizing? I have to save money. I choose to allocate my resources wisely is replacement thought for that. That's way too expensive. Replace that with what value would this bring into my life? Now, why this works is this technique literally interrupts a neural firing pattern of scarcity thoughts before they can strengthen. The breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system, calming the amygdala and allowing your prefrontal cortex to come back online. The big thing about all of this is keeping your brain online because once you go into fear, you're off the you're no longer in the rational stage. You're no longer in the place which is where you always want to be, which, like I said, the driver's seat of your thoughts. Every evening, verbally acknowledge 3 examples of abundance you experienced that day. Say these out loud to yourself. Focus on the feeling of gratitude and recognition. Examples. Today I received, specific example, and I'm grateful. Today I was able to give specific example to someone. Today I noticed this opportunity, and you put in whatever's going on with you. You start looking on the bright side. You start having grace, and you start practicing gratitude is what this all comes down to. Now, why this works is speaking abundance experiences out loud activates multiple neural pathways simultaneously and trains your brain to automatically scan for abundance rather than scarcity. The verbal component, the positivity of it, I noticed, I felt, that's what strengthens the neural rewiring process. I could go on and on about this because I like to talk about this. Like I said, I'm witnessing the changes happening over my own life. And what I'm going to do is put this in a document, another free document. You can find a lot of free, helpful documents on the post page, on my community post page. Things that I go into depth here, which are not really complicated. It's just a lot, I think, I'm trying to keep this around like 10 minutes, and we're at that point right now. But things that I feel are valuable and helpful. So it's kind of like a little mini, I call it a free mini course, of things that could help you right now. Like I keep saying, and I'm witnessing that neuroplasticity helps with every thought that you're having that is a false thought, a negative thought, a thought that no longer serves for the greater good of who you are. But specifically, I'm using these to break it down to how it even covers abundance, relationships. Really, it's all about getting back into your sense of awareness of the self. So I hope you enjoy these. And like I said, it'll be posted in the community post because your problem might not be anything. Well, you may think your problem not anything other than, like I said, scarcity, abundance, living with lack. And those are all things that no one should be feeling. Circumstances, situations we cannot control, but our thoughts we definitely control. So that's all I wanted to say today. And keep in mind that as you practice these techniques, you'll notice actually physical changes going on. I cover that also in the free mini course document that will be posted with this. The key is consistency, not perfection. Every time you choose an abundant thought over a scarcity thought, you're weakening old neural pathways, and strengthening new ones. Within 30 days of consistent application of this, I'm telling you, these new patterns will feel more natural than the old ones, which means you have new options. And I can't go over that enough because, like I said, at the time I thought nothing was happening, and then everything changed. I have so many ideas, even the fact of how I'm now talking about neuroplasticity and rewiring the mind and the cards I've developed and whatnot. That all came from once I became aware of what it was. It's like it removed certain blocks in my mind about what was possible now instead of me just feeling stuck in my situation. So I hope you find this helpful. I hope you'll take the time because everyone's so busy rushing. I hope you'll think about this like during a time of when we were actually in 2020 of having to be at home and pay attention. Every day your life is something that your mind, your thoughts, pay attention. Because once you get it back on track, it'll take a hell of a lot to take it back off. There's no going back. Like I said, when you start working with your neurological pathways, changing how you actually are processing thoughts, realizing the power your brain has, old doors close behind you and new ones open. So, talk to you soon.